Hey guys, this is John Van Whalen, back with another blade for us to take a quick look at. This time I got the, let's get it in focus, we got the Massdrop Gavko Thresher. This is also a collab with We Knives, which isn't listed on here. And here is the info on it, which is very minimal this time. I mean, other ones have kind of had like a history of the knife and things like that. This is just about Massdrop. I mean, hey, we got knives. All right, we get it. All right, so that's the box. This is the outside box that all the Massdrop knives come in. But here's what you won't care about. Here's the blade. So for this one, I went with a satin bladed version with the big eye scale pattern and the bronze ano. And I gotta say, I think I made the right choice. They had 3 color choices, 3 scale choices, and 2 blade finishes. So that equals a lot of combinations. So it's cool that you would have a knife that's not necessarily exactly like every other person who owns this knife. You have something that's sort of your own picking. So this knife is pretty awesome, I gotta say. For under $200, you're not gonna get really a much better knife. The design is really what is appealing to me in this, I have to say. So Mike Gavko, Gavko Knives. I've talked about him on the channel before. I own some Gavko customs. He's a great designer. He has very unique looking designs. Like this right here, I don't think you're gonna mistake for somebody else's knife. Another thing is, I feel like Mike's hands are very similar shape to mine, because his handles always fit in my hand so well. And this one is no exception. So with this big eye pattern, let's look at that. So with this big eye pattern, you see how it's got the little scallops all along there? And that kind of just rounds the edge of an otherwise square scale. And it gives us some visual appeal at the same time, which is awesome. Somebody commented on like an Instagram post or something like that, that their opinion was that creating more points on the handle like this was bad design ergonomically. Completely disagree. That guy was wrong. You were wrong. You're wrong. If you can hear this, you're wrong. It feels great. This knife feels great in the hand. The scalloping actually just removes the edge of the handle that would otherwise be uncomfortable in your hand. And then this beautiful design of the finger choil with a nice tail, like a curved, tapered tail. It fits great in the hand. It just fits. It points. It's like a pistol. So for me and my hand, they don't get much more comfortable than this knife. For my understanding, they went with a black thumb stud because of the idea that this is a shark. So this is the eye. That's the eye of the shark. All the names of Michael's knives are themed towards sharks. So I think that's awesome, by the way. I think themes and having a plan and stuff like that, it just adds a little bit more texture to the tapestry of your entire brand. So I think it's very cool Michael does that. And I think other brands doing something similar, not sharks, don't do sharks, but other things would be very cool. And I would love to see, honestly, more Gavko designs hit this quality of production. I would love to see some, you know, snow leopards and things like that. I gotta say too, they did a great job. I don't know how much input Mike had on the logo or if they just threw it on there for him. But that logo is very tastefully done. And it's big in size. But because they left the letters with some space, some breathing room in them, like with it's not as intruding on the blade. Whereas we have the Massdrop logo. And the Massdrop logo, I'm not a fan of on this blade. I have other Massdrop knives that it just doesn't even bother me. But this one, when you look at the blade from kind of like a distance, it looks like somebody drew on your knife with a Sharpie or something. Like they should have hollowed the letters like this. and then it wouldn't have stuck out as much. You still have all your branding, you still have everything, but it wouldn't have been sticking out. Little gripe, little gripe. I gotta say, the bronzing they did on here, WE Knives, they killed it. It's so aggressive, and it's very, very interesting to the eye. You can catch all kinds of golds and bronzes. Looks great. I'm stoked on that. And the satin on this blade, it's very similar to other WE Knives, if you've owned any or seen any that have a satin finish. This is kind of what you get from them. It's more of a thin satin, like the grit of it. It's a much finer grit than you see from companies like Riot, sorry, where it's, I guess, a little more coarse. I have to say, I prefer it to be a little more coarse. Just visually, it just looks better when it has a more kind of coarse, gritty satin to it. And just for comparison's sake, here's a previously talked about Mako. This is my custom Mako, and probably still my favorite knife in my collection. And you can see how Mike does that very similar design on his handles, where he has a little forward finger choil and then kind of a tapering, thinner handle that curves slightly. It's similar, but this one has a more curve to it, and this tail kind of portion, it's so comfortable. Now, I do have to say that while I do like this knife, there's one thing that kind of, like, WE Knives in general always feel a little funky to me. I'm kind of an action snob. My knives are cutting tools for sure, but most of the time they serve as art for me and like a fidget tool, something to just play with and enjoy and kind of, you know, soak in the artistry of it. So that makes me a little more of an action snob than somebody who's just straight looking for a hard use tool. And when you close these WE Knives, the action is very good. It is. But I gotta say, it's different from what I prefer. That's the best way I can phrase it. So the action on opening is perfect. It's got a great fire, flies open, locks up good. It's easy to do the middle finger flip. Let's see if I can get it with my, ring finger. Almost. So that's not the problem. The problem more comes into effect when you're closing the blade. So, and it's not a problem, it's a preference. So let me rephrase. When I close, the action's fine until it gets to this point. Right about that point, on all my WE Knives, they get a little stiff. Whereas most of my knives that I have that fall free like that, once they get to the point of here, they still kind of have the momentum and they can roll themselves into the handle. And this one can roll itself in the handle if you give it a little shake. It just, when it gets to this point, it has like almost how to describe it? Like a soft detent. Like it, not that it doesn't fire hard enough. It's more that it just, like if you're familiar with knives in how they suck in the blade really hard when they have a nice crisp detent, this does not have that. It has kind of like a mushy detent, like it's soft. See how I can slowly kind of tap that in there? Most of the knives that, when I prefer it when you get it to like right about here, it sucks it in super hard, like almost rips the blade in. Give me that. And that's like a nice crisp detent. And when you're closing it like this, it makes it so much more of an enjoyable experience for me. Personal preference total. You know, that's not anything that should detract you from buying this blade unless you're like me and just a total snob on the action. It may very well over time also kind of fall into that category. It's just not out of the box like that. So this is the knife. This is the box it came in. And this is the pouch that you get within the box. I gotta say, on this one, it feels like they went a little light on the branding compared to like other ones, like the Prism. They don't have the info on the back of the box, and this isn't branded for Gavko, but they did include this. It's a little wipe rag that has the Gav logo. I think it's very cool. I think it's cool. It's tan. I'm used to seeing blue and red ones, so it's cool to have like a different color one. These rags always come in handy. You see me use them a lot in the video, wiping off the knives. Very cool. I like it when there's extra stuff, so thank you. All right. So back to the knife. All in all, this is a fantastic knife, and for the price, you know, it's a really competitive knife. There's not a lot of options at the under 200 price range where you're going to get something of this quality. That I can definitely say. Those Chinese manufacturers are really pushing the limits on the value we're getting. So you're getting a knife at a cost that, you know, years ago you would never be able to get a knife of this quality for under $200. It just wouldn't happen. And I'm excited for the future of where all these collaborations are going to go. I hope they get with everybody. Personally, I still like custom knives and I still look at them, and I'm sure I'll still get some more of them. But at $200, you know, you can't go wrong. And let's take another look at it once again with the Mako. And you can see they both have the similar style clip, the spring clip. Very similar looking pivots too. You can see this one has the steel over travel, the steel insert, whereas the custom straight tie, tie on tie. And this should go to show people who are nervous about that. It's really not as big of a problem as they exaggerate it to be. Tie on tie lockup, it's fine. It's fine. If it's done right, it's fine. I know a lot of people were nervous about the Oaks Riot Massdrop that's coming out because it was rumored to not have a steel insert. Don't worry about it, folks. It'll be fine. Let's take some close looks. I'm going to kind of just wiggle them a little bit so you can catch some light. Ooh, look at that. That looks nice with that little flat right there. Ooh. I love the little curves, man. Like Mike does like a very organic look to his knives, which is great because they're supposed to be shark themed. So of course they're organic themed. You know, that's awesome. Flip it over. These are great looking knives. Yeah, just great. Can't beat that custom, but it's also not $200. All right, dudes. Well, that wraps it up for me. I think I've pretty much expressed everything I have to about this knife. I hope you guys are getting, you know, awesome knives in your lives, and if you're not, I hope you're at the very least enjoying the vids and you can kind of live vicariously through my vids. I'm doing a big sell-off on Instagram right now so I can hopefully get more knives, so I can do more vids, and so I can get them in my grubby little hands. So please support me over there if you can. And, you know, if you have any comments, like you don't like something about my videos, you really like something and you want to see more of, or anything, please drop me a comment or hit me in the DMs or something, you know. I like the interaction. So, this is John Van Walen signing out. Have a good one.